Yo, yo, yo. Getting the stream starting. Just posted it on my social media. Gonna go ahead and start getting into this market recap for today. How we were able to make, I believe today with Costco, we didn't clear too much. I think we just did like 50%, 60%, nothing too tremendous. But at the end of the day, every win should be reviewed and so should every loss. So what's going on, you guys? It is Jerry Trades back in another banger video. And today's going to be essentially the, I believe, third video going into this market recap series where I'm documenting the journey of turning $500 into $10,000 and reviewing every single trade that I profited on, every single trade that I lost on. So I share the journey from the bottom up. I hope you guys enjoy this series on my YouTube channel. If you haven't watched the previous ones before, go ahead and check them out. Thank you guys for stopping by, and let's go ahead and get into this trade today. So trading today, I had already exited out of UNH. I closed UNH on 11:25, opened it on 11:24. With Costco, it was really just searching through my stocks and my watch list, screening and just looking at which setups are more probable. As my previous watch list was already, Meta had left the train station. Oracle was kind of overselling. Would have been a much better trade, I believe, like in terms of capital and price. But I was limited to how much buying power I had since I had lost, obviously, for those that, want a little bit more context. I lost access to my margin trading account, so everything on my Robinhood is now cash account. So that means that I have to wait for the following day for my funds to settle for me to have access to be able to reinvest those profits. So working with $150 in buying power today, I had kind of had my arms caught behind my back, but I was able to find a really good contract here. I think we played 900C on Costco, 1128 expiration. And I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and take a look at Costco. So here, looking at the 5-minute chart, right, we can see that. Let me point out my initial thesis before entering and why. Well, for one, if you guys haven't noticed it by now, my favorite method is me being a bullish in the market. I always tend to believe in stocks coming back up than in believing them coming down. I believe when you guys first start trading and you build up, your experience, you start to develop that, you start to realize, I should say, that you're more biased to one side of a stock. You're either going to be prioritizing finding opportunities when it's coming down or prioritizing finding opportunities when it's coming up. And I don't know, me being a bit more optimistic naturally, I always like the underdog coming back up story. So looking at how Costco has been performing, right? Always starting from the bigger time frames, using the 1 hour to look at the trend. You don't have to go too far in terms of months and weeks to really look at how a stock is trending. But if we even do go back here as far as even June, we see that Costco has been following this clear bearish trend. Previously trading at a highs of 1,060. Now trading at a low of 894, closing the market today on 1125. But this is where I found the clear setup with Costco this morning to give you guys a little bit more insight. So jumping into the trade, I noticed we're here at these levels again. Of course, we're not there exactly on the day. Today being, the lowest we traded 885, but previously last Wednesday trading here at 876. Being aware of where we were at, currently still not too far away from these lows, which we would consider a supply zone. Remember, supply zones are where 90% of buyers step into the market, and you only have really about 10% sellers. So it's a point of price where you're not going to really get much resistance from buyers, and you're going to get a clear bounce or aggressive jump off of this price point into the bullish side. Those that don't understand what bullish means, it's just the upside. So I noticed that, okay, previously, boom, we hit this level back here in, this is a low of April. Last time before April, we hit this point in October of 2024. And it looks like this has been the bottom ground for Costco. We haven't gotten much lower than this in now over a year. So why will we start now? We're still in 2025, about to receive a stimulus. We got interest rates coming down. There shouldn't be no reason for Costco to come down too much. So now the bullish perspective coming in, I'm like, all right, Costco's got something in store for us. Of course, I'm not expecting her to come back up to these highs of 1060, but I'm starting to see a little bit more chances of a reversal here. So that's how I identify the setup, right? So we're still in the 1 hour chart. I just zoomed it in now so we see more of an in-depth performance up to last week. So this is last Wednesday. We're currently in Tuesday. So last week, Tuesday, we were trading up here at a high on the day of 940 and a low on the day of pre-market 929. So just last week, we were trading at 929. And now, same time around next week, we're trading here at 894. So now that you guys understand that, right? You're understanding, hey, we're trading here at 894 and we're, you know, let me go ahead and turn this up real quick, guys. 1 second, my bad. I'll get my music going. 1 second, boys, 1 second. I want to get this set up. And hold on, boys, hold on. There you go, that's better. All right, so noticing that we're in the supply zone, right? And we're following this clear trend. I'm like, okay, now we're going to start breaking more bullishly. Boom, identified that. Now I'm looking at the trend from the last lows to today's starting to push back up here. So I noticed that yesterday we had this aggressive sell volume. We went from a high of 900 to a low of 882, 883 in 1 day. That's like $17 down the drain right there. That's a lot of share value for a company to lose, even if you want to put it in a perspective of market cap. That's a lot of value to lose in just one trading day. But I'm noticing, you know, we found a support before market close just here at 885, 884. I noticed these levels. I'm like, okay, we have a support that's clearly right next to our supply zone. We're still, if you want to really be an optimist, you can argue that we're still here in this supply zone. This can all be considered technically a supply zone. We're barely making our way back out of here into these previous highs. You know, we have so much price action to be tapped into over here. Look at this big drop over here. Just in March, you know, 1045 down to low of 884. That's a bloodbath for a lot of companies. So there's a lot of room here. So now if we go to a bigger time frame, right? Let's go ahead and check this out. We can see that maybe there's a fair value for Costco somewhere around here at 906. That's $6 to 900, another $6 to 906. That's $12 left for Costco to gain back up. So seeing that we're starting to develop this, you know, bullish development here in this area, we can technically follow this trend line, starting to target either the last point of support or break back above previous resistance. These levels are hot for Costco right now if we continue this bullish momentum. And me taking that into consideration, well, I was like, you know what, this is perfect. Entering these call options here at the sell-off in the supply zone, worst case scenario, my entry was maybe wrong. I get a little bit of negative at the beginning, but end of week, you know, even going into this week, remember 11/25, we're not that far from Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is like on Thursday, so I'm 2 days away from Thanksgiving. Taking this into consideration as another variable, you have to understand that Thanksgiving, the market is closed, so you have a shorter trading week. You're not going to be able to trade on Thursday. So I know that, hey, I don't have till end of week to really play these contracts. I'm going to be losing theta over the market close. I'm going to be losing time decay of the contract's value to theta with market close. So let me go ahead and, like, you know, try to make this decision count. I wanted to be a high quality trade, so I didn't go for just any other company. I stuck to Costco, and boom, sure enough, let's go ahead and zoom into what happened today, jumping in on the 1 minute chart now for today. For you guys that need that point of reference, this is today. All right, so this is the first hour of the trading today. Let me go ahead and bring this up closer. I'm gonna lower my volume. So in the first hour, look at this right here. I'm going to break it back into maybe the first 15-minute candle, because the 15-minute candle, you're going to be able to see more on the 15-minute candle whether because the 1 hour showed just straight bullishness, but that's not how it played out. Yeah, we ended up taking bullish bias for the day, but this is essentially the dip that we got today. We got this first green aggressive open candle that you see right here. Let me go ahead and zoom it up even more. And then just stretch it out. All right, nice. So we got this, boom, big green open. Let me go ahead and start clearing some of these real quick. Perfect. So first candle of the day, first 15 minutes, we had a high here on this wick at 890, and we had a low at 886. $4 price range for the first candle of the day, right? All right, so now taking that into consideration, look at the second candle. The second candle here, red. You started coming down, kept that same range. Third candle, look at, this is what's important you guys have to understand about candlesticks. Look at the small gap here in between this bottom of this candle to this candle. We went below previous candle lows, therefore short term forming this bearish trend. So in Robinhood, if I were to go to, I can't, I would love to, but if I went and showed you guys how it looked on Robinhood, I'd have to adjust the whole screen here. But for efficiency purposes, just understand that when it breaks below, we had an initial bearish trend forming until the next candle opened up here, and then that's when you started getting this bullish trend back towards the upside. So I seen this immediate selling pressure, but keeping in mind, remember, like I said earlier, we are trading in the supply zones. So I know in these zones, we're hot. There's 90% of buyers just sitting, waiting to play Costco for long term in this area. Taking that into consideration, I'm like, this sell-off is temporary. Look at what just happened yesterday. Yesterday, we went from a high of 933 down to a low of 884. We already got our selling done for the week. There's already been that aggressive sell pressure for the week. Buyers have to step in at some point. Taking this all into perspective and building this narrative for myself personally, which stream got cut out a little bit there. Just want to make sure everything's okay. Mic, testing. Can you guys hear me? Go ahead and type in the chat if you can hear me. And if you guys have any questions around this point, go ahead and just let me know. I'll love to answer them. I know I'm just kind of going off here, but if there's any point that you want me to explain anything on this chart, I'm glad to help you, any of you guys. But taking advantage of that short-term selling pressure and seeing this, you know, let me go ahead and jump into a smaller time frame now in the minutes. You're going to see it play out more. You're going to see that we have this kind of gulf right here. Bearish engulfing candle. Look at this selling pressure right here. I started seeing these jumps here off of 886, although, you know, we're still in this selling, this low. Look at this aggressive selling from here. Aggressive selling from 890 down to a low of 885. Aggressive selling. I caught this. So I was like, you know what? Selling pressure was really high yesterday. We're going to go ahead and make up for it today. Boom. Entered around here. Sure enough. Just like I predicted, right? Let me go ahead and set my stop loss down to this candle low here. Entered around here. She ran all day long. And I ended up closing around here. Before this candle started breaking lower, I had already closed here for a profit so I could go about my day. I didn't want to be tied to my computer all day long. I wanted to just exit. It was only $150 in capital either way. Like, I'm not going to expect a 300 or a 100x, 200x out of Costco, especially with today's, yeah, we already got this much of a move. 50% on an option contract, like, with not extensive news, no earnings, no, you know, real highlighting news, like data, anything, we're not going to get that price move. And I was like, you know what, like, I'm going to take my 50%, agree, love the, you know, humble win, and just stack this little 150 off the table. I think I walked away with like $80 today. But yeah, this was a great trade, great setup. You know, was able to identify first the selling pressure and the oversold position that, you know, Costco's in, and we go ahead and zoom back out. You know, remember, identifying these oversold positions and finding opportunity in them. Remember, this isn't even the worst of it. You know, we really go back into this hour chart. Look at where we're at right now. This has been a bloodbath. You know, it doesn't really take a genius to see this. Like, we've been in far worse, you know, far better situations here with Costco's share price. So taking that into consideration, you know, you're going to be able to find some opportunity, and I hope that these videos are able to help you guys better understand how to make trades. And if you guys ever want more help in getting into trading and finding, you know, that guidance and this coaching experience that, you know, a lot of people kind of don't get to because they, you know, some people give up, unfortunately, in trading. Others just don't have this resource. Here at SoCal Trading Group, it's something that I created to be able to be that resource for a lot of individuals that are trying to understand this form of creating more income for themselves and bettering their financial position. It's not a journey that you're going to jump into and immediately make a killing and make a living off of, but it's something that you can most definitely use as your advantage into your adulthood to make an extra, minimum $300, $400,000 a week. Anything above that is extremely possible. With the more you invest, the lot more experience you develop. Everything I do is just sharing my last 5 years of experience, and now I have $250,000 in trading profits. And I run SoCal Trading Group to help normal individuals like yourself start understanding the market and making more money. So I love all of you guys. Thank you guys for watching the video. Jerry Trades SoCal Trading Group, over and out.